Jake Paul has signed with the PFL. And if I was the lead analyst for the PFL, Kenny Florian, by the way, lead analyst for the Professional Fighters League, I would be absolutely elated and very excited, wanting to run through a wall after watching his 6-minute promotional announcement video. Few of the details, Kenny. The launching of the PFL Super Fight division alongside his manager, Nikisa Bedorian. Jake will be the head of fighter advocacy, 50% of revenue for the fighters in this Super Fight division, seemingly featured on pay-per-view. They'll get 50% of the revenue. They also would have the ability to procure their own sponsorship deals. We'll get into the Nate Diaz stuff as well. But I just love the way Jake Paul, as an orator and as a promoter, sort of handled this announcement. And, as some people have sort of echoed publicly, for people in the fight game, I don't know how you don't support this guy. He seems to really be the real article and genuinely about the fighter as a PFL, employee, so to speak. Kenny, what are your thoughts on all that?
Well, it's certainly very exciting for the organization. I think this is huge for the PFL. I think it also adds that much more value to any of the fighters out there that may be on the fence of who they're going to sign with next. That is a huge opportunity. Guaranteeing 50% of pay-per-view sales is huge. I'm curious to see exactly how Jake Paul is going to pursue his mixed martial arts career, who he's going to face early on. All that stuff is interesting. But for me, on the business side of things, I see this as a huge positive for the organization, for the fighters involved, all that stuff. So, I mean, this guy has established himself as a true force. It really is impressive what Jake Paul has done. And, I've been, I don't know. I have mixed feelings on Jake just because of all, his past relationships and what he said and how he pumps things up. But obviously he's pulling through and staying true to his word, and curious to see how it develops, man. Very exciting.
I want to read a tweet from Big John McCarthy, whom I respect a great deal. I think it is a great move for Jake Paul and shows how business savvy he really is. I can't say the same for the PFL at this time. It's going to take time to see how positive his presence is for them and if it was a good move for everyone involved. I'm certainly not going to ask you to comment on that. I'm not exactly sure what that shot at the PFL exactly means, but I find it to be very interesting. And oftentimes people on this podcast have heard me talk about Conor McGregor or Paddy Pimblett and their ability to just be themselves as orators. They have good comedic timing. Conor's in a league by himself. Okay. Even the great Chael Sonnen, I talk about a lot of his maybe material that was scripted. I really do believe that when Jake Paul gets on a microphone, he is intelligent. He is thoughtful. And obviously this promotion in particular, I didn't love some of the Dana White stuff at the end, if I'm being candid, but overall, I think the way this was put together was really brilliant and masterfully articulated by him. I mean, I don't know if I'm going too far, right? Obviously I work for, the MMA leader, but I don't know, man. Like my twin brother just said, before you do your podcast, you got to watch that video. And I was effectively blown away. So.
Yeah, no, he's done an amazing job. And again, you think about all the reps that he has had as a YouTube guy, over the years. He knows what he's doing. He's a smart kid and he's successful for a reason. No question about it.
Certainly not as comedically relevant as one Conor McGregor, but maybe he'll get there. But congratulations to Jake Paul. And I do think that, it's going to be interesting to see how he goes about his mixed martial arts training and the ensuing mixed martial arts debut. If you did watch the video, he has a wrestling background. And hey, I mean, the proof is in that video, right? As a youth, he obviously had MMA aspirations and not boxing aspirations, so we'll see how it goes. Now, part of this, Kenny, he offered Nate Diaz, who is seemingly a combat sports free agent right now, a 2-fight deal, wants to compete with him in boxing and then 6 months later in mixed martial arts. Follow-up tweet here from UFC lightweight contender Renato Moicano. Unpopular opinion: it's easier for Jake Paul to beat Nate Diaz in an MMA match than for Nate Diaz to beat Jake Paul in boxing. How do you feel about the potential of a 2-fight series with Nate Diaz and Jake Paul? I mean, I think it's very ambitious and idealistic to think that would ever happen. But Moicano among those that thinks, Jake Paul wouldn't be totally outmatched in an MMA setting against Nate Diaz.
Listen, Jake has proven that he knows how to box. He's a big, strong kid. He hits extremely hard. He, no question, has knockout power. He takes it very seriously. I think we've seen improvements in his game and how he's moving and setting things up. And I think that, yeah, he'd absolutely be a legitimate threat against Nate Diaz in a boxing fight. But in mixed martial arts, people forget he does have a wrestling background. I actually did a seminar at his former high school in Ohio at Westlake High School, and both him and his brother have their names up there on the wall as guys who have done well in wrestling, state qualifiers, all that stuff. So that was pretty funny seeing that. But, the sport of mixed martial arts, there's so much to it. How you put it all together, he's going to need a heck of a lot of time against someone as experienced as Nate Diaz. So just based on that alone, I find it absolutely fascinating. And if the PFL, Nate Diaz and Jake Paul can get together and make this happen, I think it would be absolutely epic. And one of the first times that we've seen guys go, okay, listen, I'll fight you in boxing and I'll fight you in mixed martial arts. If they're able to pull this off, this could be huge.